Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Psycho here, and today I'm bringing you guys my first tutorial video. Well, not really, because I already have like a speed level design tutorial, or a couple, I guess. And yeah, but I'm bringing you guys my first tutorial in terms of making a game in Unity, except for speed level designing or just level designing in general. So anyway, today we're gonna be talking about post-processing effects, and I'm gonna be showing you how I actually set up my post-processing effects, not only for my speed level designs but also for my games. So we're gonna be getting right into that. So as you can see here, I have my. If you're a long time viewer of mine, you'll know that this scene is something that I made for my speed level design for a while ago, or for a while back. So if you haven't watched it yet, I'll link it in the description below, and I should have a like annotation right now on the screen if I don't forget. So yeah, if you want to watch that, go ahead and do so. But anyway, so we have this scene. I have no post-processing effects attached to the camera because I obviously don't want anything right now, so that I can show you guys how I do it. And yeah, we just have a simple scene. We have a mountain and we have a house. The assets will be linked in the description below, which I was very good with. For like I've been so good with linking assets. Obviously, if you're a long time subscriber, you should know that. But anyway, let's get right into it. So we have our main camera. We have the sky dome. You can use any skybox too. You don't really have to use this asset, but I'm using this asset called for sky dome. It's called for time of day actually, and it's just the prefab that is called for sky dome. But yeah, I'll be linking that in the description below, and as well, so you can check it out if you want to. But anyway, if you don't have this, you can go ahead and use any skybox at all. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, the skybox is not the most important part here, but yeah, let's get started with this. So, and to show you off, when you're gonna be having a directional light in your scene, and I have a light prefab here, or light game object inside of the sky dome. So it is basically a directional light, but it's just inside of it, so that you know, like, so that I don't want to confuse you guys, and so that you be like, yeah, what is that light game object? But it's just a directional light. So we're gonna be starting off by using my or adding my favorite image effect for the camera. And also, just a side note, guys, we're only gonna be using the default post-processing effects from Unity. If you want me to make a tutorial on like how to use sunshine, that was the most creepy thing I've ever lived through. That just literally popped out of nowhere, and it was like in the background on a YouTube video. But okay, that was so weird. I'm sorry for that. But anyway, let's keep on going. So as I was saying, guys, if you want me to make a tutorial on how to use assets like sunshine, ultimate bloom, and all that, all those paid assets, let me know, and I will make a tutorial on that eventually. But for the moment being, we're only going to be using the default image effects that are post-processing effects that are following up with Unity as a standard asset. So yeah, let's get started, and we're going to be starting off by adding my favorite image effect that is called for sun shafts. So we're just going to go ahead and add that component to the main camera right away. So we're going to unfold this, and we can see that we have a resolution. I usually don't play around with the resolution too much. I never ever actually touch the blend mode. Shafts caster is the most important, obviously, because you want the light to be casting the sun shafts. So what you want to do here, you just drag your directional light into here. I'm gonna drag the light game object, obviously, because once again, it's I'm using the light object that is called basically it is a directional light, right? So center on main camera is not important. It's just gonna move the directional light. I don't know why that feature is a thing. Like, I don't really use it, but okay. So we have a threshold color. I don't really play around with this too much because it really like satisfies me that to use it on this standard color that it comes with. But the most important part here for me is the shaft color. So you're gonna want to make the shaft's color something similar to the background which is being used by the skybox. So if you have like a blue skybox, you probably want to use something like white sun shafts, because obviously the sun, that means the sun is a little bit more upwards and it's not like settling down. But in my scene, in my scenario, I have the sun kind of like settling down, and the sky is kind of turning night-ish blue slash gray up here. So yeah, but So, and you can also see the sun color in the background. It's actually like yellowish because you can see that in the scene window. If you look here, the sun shaft is kind of blocking it out right now, but you can see that it's quite yellowish because the sun is settling down. So what you want to do here, you want to follow up the colors so that it actually suits your skybox or your sky dome or whatever, and your sun color. So you don't only want to focus on one of them, but you want to make it look good with both. So we're gonna have like, I'm just gonna play around with the color value a little bit and see how the hue works and how the color fits with the models and stuff. So I'm just gonna see what kind of color could be fitting perfectly fine with this. I think a little bit more about a little darker version of the threshold color is perfect right now. So I'm gonna keep it on that for the moment being. I may come back and change it later depending on the scene changes, and also how the other image effects are gonna change the main camera. So, but yeah, for the moment being, I'm gonna be using like that. Distance fall off, I usually have it like on 0.5, 0.55 or something like that. 0.5 I think is the best. That basically makes it a little bit more smooth when it kind of like transitions into other objects. If you have it on 0, you're gonna see that it's kind of sharp on the edges. But if you have it on 0.5, or actually it's not 0, it's 0.1 right now, but if you have 0.5, you're gonna see that it's actually a lot more smooth on the edges, and there are no edges because it's just blurred out, and it looks very nice. I feel like it's the best setting right now. So next important stop is the blur size for the sun shaft. So I usually have it around this. I don't really have a specific value that I like just put in and be like, okay, this is good. I usually just play around with it and see how much sun shafts I want in my scene. And once again, these are all settings that we can come back to and change later on, because they're obviously going to be changing a little bit because of the bloom effects that we're going to be adding, the tone mapping and all that. You know, if we add a new tree, maybe it's going to block out the sun shaft, so you may want to rotate the sun, or just maybe like make it a little bit more visible for the camera. So, you know, these are all settings that you want to come back to later, whatever the case is. So, but you know, to start off with, just find whatever suits your scene. I feel like this is good because I wanted to kind of like reflect on the mountain in the background, and I want it to be visible on the trees too, so that the color is actually there, but it's not too much, and it looks kind of foggy. I really like that effect, and I'm satisfied. So there's also intensity, but for the moment being, I'm not gonna play around with the intensity because it's obviously gonna change how strong of a color we're getting. And I'm honestly happy with the default value right now, but you know, like I said, I can come back to it later. So next up, we're going to be adding another effect that is called for anti-aliasing. Oh, and by the way, guys, there's no way, like no structure that I follow up on adding image effects. So you can add, if you want, you can add anti-aliasing first or bloom first, whatever, you know, it's all up to you. But I just feel comfortable by using sun shafts first and coming on to anti-aliasing just to see the sharpness on the trees and all the other models' edges being gone. So it's really satisfying. And it really matters because it's obviously something that is very important for your scene. So it's just, you know, it's just my personal preference, but you know, you can do whatever you want. But so if we unfold the anti-aliasing, I honestly don't play around with these settings at all, like literally not. I just add the anti-aliasing and then be happy with it. And sometimes I'm not very satisfied with the anti-aliasing, and then what I do is just basically add another anti-aliasing on it. So I just add one more component and I'm done. But right now it doesn't look like we need one or two. So we can just play the scene and see how it looks in full size, and we can see that it's actually pretty smooth. It's pretty blurred out on the edges of the trees and stuff. The grasses obviously look beautiful, and it's very good. I'm satisfied right now. So I don't really feel like I need to play around with the settings nor add a new anti-aliasing. So, but you know, whatever suits you best. So moving on, we can actually add a bloom. So there are 3 different bloom effects. The two last ones are basically assets that I purchased before, so you can just ignore them. But we have bloom optimized inside of parentheses, and then we have bloom and flares. I don't really know what the number is for, but I'm pretty sure that it's like the default value or something. But I usually use the normal bloom or just bloom optimized. I feel like the bloom optimized would be better right now because the bloom optimized is usually a little bit more effective in the background. So it's going to affect a little bit more about the skybox and the sun and the sun shafts instead of when whilst bloom is just gonna take care of this little tray of sun shaft right here, or not sun shaft but the sun ray. So we can add both and we can see which one works best. So I'm gonna start off by adding bloom, so we can see that we're getting a little bit more about the sun, and we're getting this quite nice effect. I'm actually satisfied with this, and it didn't really matter on the sun ray here, so I may actually keep it on like this, but I'm gonna look onto the other one too, just to make sure that we don't miss any other features. So let's add the bloom optimized. Wow, it looks much better, I feel like. So it's adding a little bit more into the background. Like I said, it's not only the sun, it's not only the scene, but it's actually a little bit more on the skybox itself, or the sky dome. And we can just like kind of disable it and re-enable it just to see the effect that it's getting, and then we can add back the normal bloom, which is what I usually do just to compare them to. So yeah, that's what I usually do. I feel like I don't really need anything like bloom up. Well, actually I do. I feel like there is a, I don't know, it's a difficult choice for me right now. I feel like I don't want to use way too many colors in the background too, but at the same time I feel like it could be nice to use it. But at the same time, it's like, the sun is settling down, it looks very nice, so I may just as well use some more colors on the clouds. So let's go ahead with that. The atmosphere looks very nice right now. So the settings, once again, like in the anti-aliasing, I don't really usually play around with them because I'm often happy with this, or often happy with the default values that it follows up with. But we can play around with the intensity and see what it really affects, and you can see that we're getting the sun color very strongly now. So I may not want to have it that higher than 0.7. I feel like 0.75 is gonna be 0.75 is gonna be the perfect one, I feel like. But whatever suits you best, just playing around with it. So blur size is usually something that I focus on because it's obviously going to make it a little bit more blurry, and you're going to see the effect stronger on the edges of the models that are basically blocking the bloom area. So you're going to see, for example, here we have a tree here on the right side, as you can see my mouse cursor right now. You can see that there's kind of a bloom effect on it too. Not really that the tree is bloomed, but you can see the blur of the bloom in the background just kind of reflecting onto the tree, which looks very good. I really like that kind of effect. I love that, and I think I'm gonna have it on a ridiculous value like 2.6 or so, and I'm actually happy with this because not only does it add this gorgeous bloom effect, but also like it just kind of adds another color to your tree and other objects as well, obviously. But basically it just makes it more realistic in terms of how much of a color these models you're having in your scene are getting from the sun. And it looks very beautiful for me, or to me, and I'm gonna keep it like this. Blur iterations, I don't play around with that. Blur type, I don't really play around with that either. Fast bloom shader, it's not really anything you want to change because it's the default shader that is being used for the script itself. So yeah, I don't really think there's any point of playing around with that. Talking about colors, we're going to be adding another effect that is called for tone mapping now. So this is going to be playing around with your colors very strongly. But now you can realize that as soon as we add this, the bloom effect in the background kind of disappears and it gets really washed out, and the colors a little bit washed out as well. What you want to do is basically go ahead and fold out the camera and enable the HDR, because it's using a little bit of the HDR here too. So, or actually it's mapping HDR to LDR. So anyway, you're going to be using the HDR functionality on your camera. It's going to be making it much more gorgeous. So next up, you want to change the technique from photographic to optimized something. The last word being Dawson, but basically the fifth in the row. So you just want to enable that, and now you're gonna see that it's a little bit more darker on the scene itself. So what you want to do is just increase the exposure to a value where you just kind of get satisfied with it. So as you can see, I'm kind of happy with 3.4 because I don't want it to be very strong, but at the same time I wanted the colors to kind of like stick up. But you can see that the grass models or the grass textures that I'm using in my scene right here, if you look in the scene module, you can see that they are kind of brownish, kind of grayish, and they look very dark in the exposure setting, or when I add the tone mapping basically. And they still look as dark as they do even if I disable the tone mapping. So I may just as well have the tone mapping on, because I really love the wow, Steam, I really love the color settings that it's adding to my scene. So I can just play around with the value a little bit more and see what really fits the scene best, because I don't want it to be a little bit like too bright in the whole scene itself, because it's obviously sun settling down and we have this very nice effect in the background. We have a river running, so we don't really want to like overuse the colors of our scene. So I feel like I could just have it like 2.5. I feel like could be good. And I can see that the bloom is a lot stronger now. So what I'm gonna do is go back to bloom settings and just kind of decrease the intensity a little bit, so that it affects the trees, not only that but also in the background. So what I want to do next is change the sunshaft color a little bit to a bit more into hot orange, kind of, not really, but just play around with the color and see which one suits my scene best right now, because we have been playing with the bloom and we have been playing with the tone mapping and we have added them both. You can see that the colors in the background have been changed a lot, so I may just as well change the color for the sunshaft. As you can see, it's a little bit more hot instead of hot color instead of just washed out color that I had before. Instead of the brownish version of the threshold color, I'm using a little bit more about orange now, so we're getting this very strong and very nice color effect on the mountain too. And I feel like I'm just gonna distance fall off. I'm gonna increase that a little bit, and then I'm gonna increase the blur size too, so that we have the sunshaft reaching out to the camera a little bit further, but at the same time the background mountain is going to be looking a little bit more foggy instead of just sunshaft like hitting it hard in the face. So I feel like this is a little bit too washed out right now, so I can just increase the intensity just a little bit and see what really suits my feelings best. I feel like this is very good. I feel like this is very, very nice. So I'm just going to keep it on 1.8. Let's just keep it on 1.84. Not so important. So I'm happy with the sunshafts. I'm happy with the tone mapping, and let's move on to Vignette. So I really hope that I am pronouncing this word right, or this post-processing effect right. If I don't, I'm sorry, but so it's called for Vignette, Vignette. So you're gonna want to increase the vignetting a little bit in the settings. So what this does is basically it adds this color, darker color or shadow color to the edges of your screen. So you can see that every corner of your screen has a little bit more darker ending right now. So it's transitioning to a little bit dark. What I would suggest you to do is be very careful with how much vignetting you're using, because it's very easy to get lost in it, and it's very easy to have way too much vignetting so that it looks like your character is basically dying in like a tunnel or something. So just be careful about how much you use it, and to compare it with the old version, before you added the vignetting, you can just disable and re-enable the effect and see how much of a strong effect it's giving. And second most efficient effect that I usually use is the blurred corners. So I just kind of increase it a little bit and see that we have a little blur effect on the corners now, and it's not only darkness, but it's just a little bit blurry, and it makes the sunshaft kind of force up a little bit more, show up a little bit more, which I feel like looks very, very nice. It's gorgeous, and I really like using this kind of effect. And once again, I can just disable and re-enable to see how much blur I'm using too. I feel like I'm using a little bit too much vignetting, so I'm just going to decrease it slightly, like just too little. There we go. I'm happy with that. Aberration is nothing that I play around with. Chromatic aberration is just this glitchy effect for a camera. You can see that the trees, for example, are getting this hot pink and hot green, like pure green color. And it's basically just a camera glitch. So if you're making a game like Freddy's Night or something, that horror game, I don't remember the name of it, But if you're making a game like that and you're having like a security camera in your game, you can use this chromatic aberration. It's really adding this nice camera glitching effect to your scene. There are also assets that do this, but you know, I really like this one. But I'm gonna have it on 0 because I don't need it. I don't feel like I need it. So next up, let's add a little bit more shadows to the scene by using a post-processing effect called for occlusion. It's actually just called for screen space ambient occlusion, and I usually call it for occlusion, but it's shortened by SSAO. So you can add it, and you'll see that we get this kind of nice and strong shadow effect on the bottom and on the edges of every single object. And you can see, especially on the house, like if you look at the logs here, right here, you're gonna see that as soon as I re-enable and disable the asset, you can see that, or the post-processing effect, you can see the shadow effect kind of strongly. And you can also see it on the bottom of the grass textures and also the rock, etc. So it's very nice. And what I want to do is actually increase the occlusion, so just kind of have it a little bit stronger, and to see the changes, kind of just re-enable and disable, or actually just like undo and redo the changes that I just did. So I can also read like just basically disable and re-enable the asset too, or the post-processing effect. I don't know why I keep on calling them for assets. Basically they are assets, but you know, assets make it sound as if I downloaded them or just bought them from the asset store. But anyway, so I'm very happy with the shadow effect right now, and I'm gonna go ahead further out and just add a little bit more shadowing, which is going to be by obscurance. So as you can see, as soon as we add the obscurance, it's a little bit more about transculency, so it's adding this dark effect to the white spots on the mountain where it's basically meant to be snowy. And I don't really feel like it's necessary for this scene, because I kind of want it to be white because obviously it is, you know, I'm a racist, but basically it's, you know, it's snowy and I want to keep it like that. But if you want to add a obscurance effect, go ahead with that, but you know, it just kind of makes it darker instead of adding this general shadow onto the bottom of the objects. But I don't really feel like I need it right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the component. Moving on, what have I missed? I feel like I've used well, I can add some noise too, just to show you guys how that works. So just search for noise and grain, and oh, this is another one. So there's another one called for noise and scratches, obviously. I don't really wow, damn, that was a strong effect. I never use the noise and scratches, but what I usually have on my main camera is the noise and grain filmic. So just add that and you'll automatically realize a little bit of a difference on specifically the bright areas of your map. For example, if you have snow on the house, you're gonna see that it's a little bit more noisy there, and especially on the sun shaft, on the bloom, and on the atmosphere, because it's a little bit more bright there. You're gonna see this kind of blue, not bloom, what is it called, for a noise effect, kind of grainy. And to make it a little bit stronger, we're actually gonna enable the DirectX 11 grain, which I usually have. So you can see that we're getting the effect much stronger now. We're gonna play around with the settings a little bit further, but monochrome is nothing that I use. It's another feature such as the DirectX 11 grain, but I never use it. It's a little bit bigger noise particles, I feel like, but it's not something that I use, and you know, it's nothing that I can say I don't recommend you to use, because it's obviously, it depends on what kind of level you have or what kind of map you have. And I can't really tell you if you should use it or not, but I'm not gonna use it in my scene because it doesn't really fit it. So we're gonna be playing around with the intensity multiplier a little bit and see what kind of fits best. So 0.25 was too much, 0.2 is slightly too much, so let's have it on 0.15. And you can see that we're getting this effect very strongly, but at the same time not too strong, like it doesn't hit you in the face, but it's actually just there so that you can realize it if you look very closely, which I feel like looks very beautiful. I'm happy with this. And to test this further out, we can actually just play it in full screen and see the effects, all the effects multiplied, and it looks gorgeous. I'm happy with this. I feel like this is something that I wanted to do, and I feel like I just accomplished that. Let me know what you guys think about this. Is this good? is Is this good or is this bad? Let me just check out if I missed anything. Vignette, tone mapping, nope. It doesn't look like I missed anything. Anti-Aliasing, sunshots, obviously. Yeah, I feel like I'm good with this. I'm actually happy. I hope you guys found this helpful. You know, it was my first tutorial besides the speed level designing tutorial, and I'm willing to make more tutorial videos. I really enjoy making these commentary videos where I just kind of sit and talk to you guys. Not only that, but I also make like educational commentaries such as tutorials, just to teach out to you guys how to make a game, how to make a speed level design, or just level design in general, and how to make a game from scratch, how to make a game system such as the inventory system. It's very fun, and I really want to keep on doing that. But the most important thing that I require from you guys is that you keep on commenting what you want to see as a tutorial being made on my channel. So I'll be reading your comments. Even if I can't reply all the time, I'll be reading your comments constantly and comparing and testing myself out so that I can see what actually fits best and what I'm good at, so that I can teach you guys something that I'm good at instead of just teaching you something very unnecessary. So anyway, like I said, I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe to stay up to tune for new videos coming soon, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of whatever I make. See y'all guys. Love you, bye. Peace out.